Well, hello everybody. Roger here from tarot-dude.com. And what I'm going to do today is do a little walkthrough of the Raven's Prophecy Tarot. I know this deck has been around for a while and there's probably tons of reviews out there. But I recently worked with this on my Daily Tarot Map channel. And I wanted to start doing reviews of the decks that I work with, during the weeks on the channel. Because a time or two people have commented that they would have liked to have seen more of a deck that I featured on the channel. So I thought, well, after doing a week's worth of work with a deck, maybe I'll do a brief review or walkthrough of a deck so people can get an idea of what the rest of the cards look like, and maybe go out and purchase the deck if it's something that they're drawn to. So, for your information, I did work with the deck the first week of November on the Daily Tarot Map. So, on to the walkthrough of the Raven's Prophecy Tarot. So, the deck is created by Maggie Stiefvater, and she is a New York Times #1 best-selling author. And this deck is actually based on her Raven Cycle series, which is a young adult urban fantasy series that I really liked, and it consists of 4 books. Now, the stories are based on wealth mythology, that Stiefvater was writing, and involved the tarot. So there are several examples in the book of tarot readings. The story revolved around a group of boys called the Raven Boys, which was their school emblem. And then the story revolved around the desire of these boys to find a lost Welsh king. And I think they referred to him as the Raven King. So Ms. Stiefvater designed a tarot deck to go with her series, the Raven Cycle. Thus, Raven is the namesake of the deck. Now, Stiefvater said that the cards originally were conceived as appealing mainly to the readers of the series, but they ended up evolving into a reflection of her creative life. I remember once reading that the Raven is about the magical act of creation and the transformation of creation, the miracle of rebirth. Raven brings in the light of awareness and a knowledge of opportunities of great changes. Many creation stories and myths about the Raven have to do with the Raven stealing light from the gods and then bringing it down to the entire world. I have to say that even going through the deck, some of the images of the ravens are the ones that are the most stunning. The artist has an ability to evoke really strong emotions and even empathy from a simple image of a raven, and it's really quite impressive. In the companion book, she says that the theme of the ravens comes from the curious and cunning Welsh ravens that symbolize our logical, conscious minds and emphasize the traditional fire of the wand suit to represent creative force throughout the entire deck. So that gives you an idea of the basis for the deck. Now, the cards themselves, they're printed on, I thought, excellent cardstock. Now, they are thin, and this is Llewellyn, right? Okay, so typical of Llewellyn, thin, but not too thin. I definitely have had worse cardstock. And actually, they're really flexible and very easy to shuffle. They don't clump on your hands, or they don't fly all over the place. So they're not extraordinarily slippery. So I'm happy with the quality of them, and the images are clear, no blurred images, no bleeds of color or anything like that. All the cards have this narrow orange border, which I'm not that crazy about. And actually, I've seen some people trim this deck with really good results. So that might be an option if you yourself don't care for the orange border. But the numbers and titles are printed on the bottom, and like this scratchy white print, which I kind of like. I kind of like this font. It's very cool. Now, the backs of the cards. Here we see line drawings of the 4 elements of tarot, cup, wand, sword, and coin, or pentacle, along with the lemniscate. So as such, the cards are not reversible. And actually, the author states that she herself does not use reversals. She says that the meanings of 78 cards carry enough. So that's up to you. So, but if you want to use reversals, but the backs aren't really helpful for that. So the deck comes with a book, and this is 184 pages. And the name of the book is Illuminating the Prophecy. Hopefully you can see that in the video. So in the book, she has a brief introduction in which she outlines her motivation for creating the deck and kind of how it came to be. There's also a short chapter. She talks about the theme of the deck and the theme of the ravens and Welsh mythology. Introductory information on how to perform a reading, basic majors, minors, chords, the nitty-gritties. And then she does include a couple of spreads. She includes a 1-card, a 3-card, and her 10-card spread. And the 10 card is not your traditional Celtic cross that you may be familiar with, but a variation on it, which she states it was a lot easier for her to work with than the Celtic cross. And then she goes into each of the cards. And each of the cards, you get a black and white illustration, keywords, and then a little detail on the cards. Let me fix my camera here first. Knocked my camera, which isn't good. Okay, hopefully we're back in business. So, so that's the book. So, nice book, lots of information. What I really like about the book is she doesn't write like some kind of scholar, and it's not real erudite, but actually it's very approachable writing. She writes like a friend is talking to you, and she explains her own experiences learning tarot. Her writing it's very colloquial. And very humorous, too. There's many times while I was reading the book, I would break out chuckling. For example, for the 3 of Swords card, she says, congratulations, you found the worst card in the deck. Or she says, the sword suit, they're all about pain. Just kidding. So, the things that make you grin when you're reading the book. So it's kind of fun. So the cards, they follow the Waite-Smith framework of suits and numbering. So none of the suits have been renamed. So they contain the same names as the Waite-Smith tradition that many people are used to. But still, it's considered a non-traditional deck because the imagery is not familiar imagery. You won't see any of this imagery in a Waite-Smith deck. But it's non-traditional so that it appeals more to your intuitive and creative side, which Maggie said was the purpose of the deck, for her creativity. So you have to really kind of consider the image in front of you and then think about how to use it as a starting point to integrate into a story. But the deck does follow this system of meanings pretty closely, even though the imagery is different. So if you're experienced with reading the Waite-Smith tradition, then you should have no problems figuring out how the image pertains to that Waite-Smith meaning. Okay, so let me go. Let's start going through the cards and have a look. See, Fool. Actually, no. There are only, if I can remember correctly, there are only 2 cards that contain images of people, and one is the Fool, and I can't remember. Was it 6 of Wands, maybe? No, there was one other image that contained, and it was just a silhouette. I think it was the 10 of Wands. Oh, I guess we'll get to it. I thought it was a Wands card. I'm sure we'll get to it. But yeah, so there are no images of people, just two silhouettes throughout the deck. So the Magician just shows you a hand, and here we have the four symbols of the tarot and the lemniscate, just like we have on the back of the card. And he shows all the symbols of tarot built, tattooed right into his hand. And actually, you'll see the theme of hands a lot throughout the deck, especially in the sword images. Sword suit. Priestess. I like the magnifying glass. See, very minimalist images, but you can really let your intuition run wild. I see. I like the Hierophant here. The lamp or the lit candle or lantern in the darkness, lighting the way. I like the Lover's card. I think that's sweet. Chariot. Ooh, I think it was a, there we go. Strength. See, I love this the closed fist. So we have the Magician's hand, but this time closed. Very neat. Oh wait, one thing I wanted to mention, which I thought was kind of cool, and I'll get to that, but the hand of the Magician, and I noticed this, actually like for the first time the other day, that the hand of the Magician is the same hand that's in the Ten of Swords here. Isn't that cool? So back to the cards. So we got the Hermit, Wheel of Fortune, Justice. It's kind of like the idea of the worldly trappings balanced against the feather. It's kind of interesting with the heart. Looks like jewelry and expensive chalice there. Instead of the Hanged Man, we have the Hanged Raven. Death. It's a skeleton, and where's the crown? Temperance. See how much you can get a lot out of a single drop of water. Oh, the devil. The devil's very cool, wearing the mask. It makes me think of all the masks that we wear. Oh, here was it wasn't a minor, it was a major. Here's the other image of the person that I mentioned, the silhouette. Star. Very beautiful star card. Well, see, I like the raven with the moon in its beak. It reminds you of that creation myth again that I mentioned about the raven bringing light to the world. And I think there was some. I remember reading some myths. Sometimes it's the sun, sometimes it's the light of the moon, or the moon and the stars. So there's all many different variations on the myth. Sun, Judgment. And the world, the whole road. The road is out before us. Okay, so now we begin with the minors, the Ace of Wands. So the wand suit, not surprising. You see fire in every suit. In every one of the cards. I always like this one. It really does give a serene, has a serene feel to it. Five of Wands. You see a lot of activity going on. Strife. One candle's knocked over. It looks like maybe a raven flapping in the fire. This is another one of my favorites. Seven of Wands, one hand protecting, five tiny flames. I think this really depicts perfectly the energy of this card, of protecting yourself. Yeah, I like that. And Eight of Wands, arrows on fire, flying through the air. So you really get that idea of that swiftness, that movement. A lot of things going on here. Ooh, Nine of Wands. This is kind of cool. So this is that creative process. And the Nine of Wands, and we get to that final phase where we're just exhausted and we feel like we can't go any further. We're burnt out. But the end is near. At this point, we just need to keep going. But I really like the depiction of this. That here we have a stag with a heavy load, huge horns, perhaps weighing him down. Feels the burden of his weight. And the Page of Wands. I really like the courts in this deck. So instead of symbolism, the courts aren't represented by people, but by very simple images. So like the Page of Wands, we just have one lit matchstick. So this is like lighting that initial creative fire. There's that spark here, that idea of curiosity. So the courts are very cool that way. And the Knight of Wands, surprisingly enough, for the wands we have a sword, which is on fire. Oh, and the Queen of Wands is very cool, depicting a breath of fire. So it's not just that spark anymore, but this is a more mature energy. And the King of Wands with the antlers, or the glowing antlers. I like it. Okay, Ace of Cups. So we move into the Suit of Cups. I like this idea of the opposites coming together. Bringing the two different sides of yourself together. Unity, I like it. Three of Cups. Doesn't it look like they're just having a jolly old time? Four of Cups. I can't remember. The description for this in the book was very cool. It was about in relationships. At this point, you may have lost interest in each other. Instead of looking at each other, you're looking out for something else. Loss of pleasure. Maybe losing focus for a moment of what's really important. And this is cool. See, again, these simple images can really evoke strong emotions. So here we have a raven with his head down in sorrow, but then a silhouette of the other raven. Probably the same one that we saw in this card. In the background, ignored, and they're both looking in opposite directions. I like the Six of Cups. Nostalgia, looking to the past. Seven of Cups, lot going on, lot to choose from. The ravens like shiny trinkets. That's a fun depiction of the Seven of Cups, I think. And then the Eight of Cups, feathers on the water. I like, you see lots of feathers in this deck. There's many meanings for feathers. There's the lightness. A raven can symbolize like creation and knowledge. And again, he's the bringer of light, the bringer of knowledge. Feathers might symbolize, ascension or truth. But I've also seen them associated with a mystical, initiation or spiritual initiation. I remember growing up, Mother used to always say that when you always know when you find a feather that an angel is near. Okay, so we go back to the got off track there for a moment. 9 of Cups, 10 of Cups. We have the family. Like the Page of Cups, 3 eggs in a nest. Probably raven's eggs. They kind of remind me of robin eggs. I remember growing up, I used to always find robin eggs out and about. Here again, we talked about the symbolism of the feather. The bringing of light. The traditional Waite Smith imageries of the Knight of Cups with a feather, with a cup out in front of him on horseback. So here's, again, now we have a feather in front of the moon for the Queen of Cups. Deep emotion. And the King of Cups. So you can really just let your intuition, run wild with this deck. And depending on every reading, the meanings could be different. Ace of Swords. So again, the theme of the hands are really prevalent in the suit of swords. So like this. Tied up, bound, unable to move here. Ooh. Now this one is really powerful, the 3 of Swords. We got 3 daggers going through clasped hands. Ouch. 4 of Swords. Arrest. 6 of Swords. It's an interesting image. I like this one. 7 of Swords, fingers crossed. Nice symbol of a lying, of a deception, of a trickery. I like the 8 of Swords card too, because this card came up actually during the Daily Tarot map last week. And if you look close, it's actually the right hand clasping the left hand. There's also, which can signify that we're our own worst enemy sometimes, and it's really our own thoughts and beliefs that are keeping us stuck, that are holding us from moving. 9 of Swords, the Fear card. This is a very powerful card too. Reflected hand is a skeleton. You can spend hours just talking about the symbolism and the meanings of these cards. I'm just trying to give you a little walkthrough for now, so you get an idea what the deck is like. Since we worked with it last week, this is probably the creepiest card in the deck. I think is the Knight of Swords. Not a positive depiction of the swords. Queen of Swords reminds you of the Lady of the Lake. There we go. Sheathed, one simple sheathed sword for the king. And then we come to the last suit, to the coins. And the coin suit is usually like saplings or roses depict. I like the 3 roses for the 3 coins. 4 coins. Binding. Could be a bindweed even. Preventing growth. Too much constriction, preventing growth. 5 of coins. The rose is losing its leaves. It's not as lush. This is cool. Sharing the rose petals, flower petals with others. and almost blooming, getting ready, moving up, and near bloom stage. Eight of coins. Get the idea of work and toil here. Nine of coins. I like that. Card full of roses in full bloom. You've reached it here. You've made it. Success. I like the page of coins here. It's just a simple sapling. The Knight of Coins. The very industrious Knight of Coins. Taking his time to reach his goal. Queen of Coins. We have a Crown of Roses. And then lastly, the King of Coins. One single rose, blooming, strong, healthy, successful. So that's the Raven's Prophecy Tarot. So, some people say that this isn't a deck for beginners, but I think that a beginner with good intuition certainly could use this deck. The minimalist approach can really take you down deep, I think. I personally found the deck excellent for shadow work. It has a way of bringing those deep issues to the surface, much like the Ravens brought light to the world. So people who've read her Raven Cycle series will no doubt be interested in this deck. Or anyone else interested in ravens or Welsh mythology, the deck might really appeal to young adult readers. And, might be a great gift for that teen on your Christmas list. Not that it can be enjoyed and appreciated by adults, because it certainly can. I know from experience, as this deck has become one of my favorites for personal work. And I've also used it a few times with clients and have had great results. So that's the Raven's Prophecy Tarot. Hope you enjoyed this little walkthrough, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.